Hello and good morning. I'm gonna make sure my volume is turned up all the way. And welcome to the last live of the week, the Friday Live. We've made it. Friday's here. I hope you have exciting things planned for the weekend. I certainly do. I always do. So today we're talking about PCOS, the PCOS diet, and how you can reverse your PCOS this year. Because you can do it. You deserve to do it. You deserve to feel healthy in your body and have good hormonal balance and feel at home in the skin that you're in. You deserve that. And so when you manage and sort of master your PCOS, you get to feel at home in your body again. And that's like a really important thing. And everyone deserves to have that luxury. So again, before I begin, I always say, if you have a question, post it in the question box and I will get to it if I can. So the thing about PCOS that I think is very important to understand is that it is blood sugar responsive. If you are not paying attention to your blood sugar and you have PCOS, you are not helping yourself at all. And while there are different kinds of PCOS, like there is post-pill PCOS, which is also quite common. And that is after you get off the pill, you now have PCOS. That being said, post-pill PCOS also shows up as insulin-resistant PCOS. Like your body becomes insulin-resistant, and here's why. Because the liver is one of the most important places where we use glucose in our bodies, very important when we're talking about PCOS. And if you are taking the pill consistently every single day for 10 years, 20 years, more than that, 25 years, you have been asking your liver to do a very tough job for a number of years. You've probably also maybe drank, maybe you've done some drugs recreationally. I know I certainly have. You take other prescriptions, whatever. Your liver is likely feeling congested and feeling the heat from what you do and how you live your life. So what happens is now you have, PCOS, you have insulin resistant PCOS, but it's because you've been taking the pill every single day for the last 20 years. So if you are treating post-pill PCOS, if you are treating insulin resistant PCOS, you need to be looking at your PCOS sort of just like one way in the beginning. And that is through the lens of blood sugar balance. But then you also need to go deeper after that. That's why it's important to understand that there are symptoms and there are root causes. And so symptoms are things like blood sugar imbalance, acne, digestive issues. Well, no, digestive issues are different. I'll put that in another category. But, eczema, psoriasis, like if you are experiencing these things, these are symptoms of something else that's going on that's deeper. And often when we go to our doctors or our Western medicine providers, we are given solutions to the symptoms. But if you fix the symptom and then you don't get to the root cause, you're actually not going to heal at all. And that is why you need to, again, understand that it is about symptoms and root causes. Blood sugar imbalance is a root cause that will impact really positively a lot of the other symptoms as well. And so, if you balance your blood sugar, you're going to have way clearer skin. You just are. You're not going to break up before your period. You're just your skin will be flat, even, good. And that also applies to things like eczema, psoriasis. If you are someone who experiences heavy, painful periods, starting to manage your blood sugar is going to impact that so powerfully. You will start having periods that don't knock you out as far as a pain point is concerned. And so that's a very important thing to remember, is that when you are looking at your PCOS, you want to be treating the root cause of what's going on and not just symptoms. But if you can figure out one of the symptoms that's going to have the most impactful most impact of what you're doing, it's blood sugar balance, working on your blood sugar balance. So I highly recommend doing that. And like I said, if you have any questions, post them in the question box. Hopefully some start coming in. So I think that it's important that everyone who has PCOS starts from a diet perspective to really focus on protein. Protein is so important. Protein is everything. If you are not eating enough protein, you are making all kinds of things worse. You are making your blood sugar harder to balance. You are making your body just not have the building blocks that it needs. Every single cell in our body is made up of protein. And the thing that covers that cell to protect it is a thin layer of fat called the myelin sheath. So eating protein, getting in good sources of fat like helps you like cellularly, which again will help your PCOS. I think it's important when we're thinking about PCOS, because it is a number of symptoms that sort of manifest in the body. What we have to consider is that, again, those are all symptoms. And if we get to the root cause, that's when we're going to start to impact it. So thinking outside of just, I have to resolve this thing of my PCOS, instead looking into it and being like, what could be happening deeper that is causing my body to do this? Someone said, what are the best foods to eat? Like I said, protein is really important. The quality of your protein is going to matter. So things like deli meat and like hot dogs and stuff like that, those aren't necessarily the best sources. Sure, if you're like, going out or you're going to a barbecue, like live your life, but that can't be what you consider like your source of protein, because that is going to just like give you a lot of sodium, a lot of things you don't want. So whole food sources as best as you can. I eat a lot, like I sneak a lot of protein in. I think that's like, a really important thing to remember is that if you think about eating a high protein diet and you're just thinking about, okay, I have to eat meat all the time at every single meal and I'm like eating all this meat, you have to sneak it in. That's really important. I'm actually doing the PCOS mastermind. It starts next Saturday and it's 6 weeks. And we're going to be talking about all of these things because sneaking in the protein is really like clutch. And I'm going to share it in the mastermind. Someone said darkening of skin, so I'm just going to translate it, is darkening of skin, so people get darkening of skin on the back of their neck, sometimes in between their thighs, due to insulin resistance reversible? Yes, it is. The thing about it is your insulin has to be pretty stable for like a bit before you start to see that release. And again, when I say like in between your thighs, I don't necessarily mean like what happens when you just get like a little bit of thigh rub. That's not it. Insulin resistance, like skin darkening, is like the back of your neck is really dark, like all along your inner thigh is potentially dark. So it can happen in a lot of places. But if you have it because of insulin resistance, you need to balance your blood sugar and keep it stable and like keep those glucose curves like pretty even for, I would say, like 3-4 months before you start to see that recede. Can you eat lentils if you're pre-diabetic? You can eat lentils, but it's just how you eat the lentils, what you put in them. Are you considering your lentil your carb? Or are you considering it like a protein? Like how are you using it in your meals? Is a very important thing to consider, because lentils are a carb, so they can spike your blood sugar if you eat them incorrectly. But lentils, just like blanket on a whole, lentils have a lot of value. I like them. And as a chef, I like them too. High protein, high fiber, is that good? It is good. So the thing about fiber that's great is it's good for your blood sugar because it it coats the lining of your digestive tract, delays gastric emptying, which means that your blood sugar is more stable. So that's great. Depends on where the fiber comes from. Like if you're eating a lot of carbs in that pursuit of high fiber, that might get you into a little bit of trouble just depending on how you're eating those carbs. But high fiber is good because also from a PCOS standpoint, you hold a lot of excess hormones in your body, in your like digestive tract. So eating a lot of fiber and moving is great because it gets out excess hormones. So that's good. So yeah, protein, high fiber. Of course, everything depends on your approach. A whole food approach is always best because what you're getting is the nutrients, but you're also getting other things. Fiber, you're getting vitamins, minerals, you might be getting like amino acids, like proteins, like that's really important to also be mindful of is whole food. Not everything has to be whole food, like I get it. But if most of your diet is like from whole food sources, you're probably going to feel that more impactfully and more quickly, I would say. So when it comes to like cooking, I think that like intimidates a lot of people. It certainly has intimidated a lot of clients in my past, I would say. And so one thing about getting in the kitchen is you have to learn how to be efficient. You have to learn how to know yourself and what you would tend to do. Like, what are your proclivities? Because meal planning is a lot more than just like thinking about the food and the recipes. It's about setting yourself up for like success in like your food life. And if you just go into it without thinking about some things, you often burn out, or you don't do it in a way that actually buys you more time. You feel like you're spending more time, and that is defeating. So you stop doing it. So I think it's important when you're thinking about meal planning, the number one step is to understand yourself. Are you a person that likes leftovers? If not, you need to make your meals differently. If you don't like leftovers, you need to make a lot of like prep of things. So you make some steak, maybe you make some chicken, maybe you have some like fish, you have a few grains that you cooked, you have some prepped vegetables, and you can mix and match those to your liking every time you eat something, and it feels fresh, it feels new. Nothing is going to go to waste in that case. Because if you are a person that doesn't like leftovers, and then you make all of these complete meals, and those are in the fridge, and you only like it the first time you eat it, but then there's like 2 more portions or 3 more portions in the fridge, then it's like, you're going to throw that out. And then you're going to hate meal planning because you're like, it makes me wasteful. Meal planning is wasteful. It doesn't work. That's what you're going to think. But no, you just didn't think of yourself. And on the flip side, if you are a person that by the end of the week or even the middle of the week, you start to get decision fatigue, and you like to just make a few things and you eat off that for like a few days, maybe 4 days, you love it, it's the best, you just like that it's there, you can warm it up, eat it, great. Then if you were a person that just makes a bunch of prep, then you're likely to feel overwhelmed at all the things you have in there. And then what happens is you probably just order out. That happens all the time. And so you instead need to make complete meals that are just sitting in the fridge that you just go and eat, and it's perfect. And so when it comes to planning those meals, of course, you have to be thinking about what is going to taste delicious. Taste delicious is important, but also uphold some of like my health goals, like reversing your PCOS. And a lot of times someone says meal prepping is exhausting. I think it's exhausting because you just weren't taught how to do it properly. I've literally planned, no joke, like 10,000 meals. I used to be a caterer. I was a private chef, like a private chef around my city. I live in Toronto, so I was like going to multiple people's homes. Then I just like worked for one family and like made all their meals. So I have planned everything, and I've done it to the, like, I'm stealth. And I teach you all of those things because I think that meal planning gets a bad rap. Because people just do it like really one-dimensionally. They're like, you know what? I'm going to like go to all my cookbooks, or I'm going to go on Pinterest. I'm going to find these recipes. I'm going to make them. I'm going to be a meal planning babe. And it's like, okay, sweet. But what about all the other things that have to come before you pick the food? So you have to think about that. Meal planning is meant to buy you time back. And if it doesn't, the way you're doing it is wrong. But it's just, you need to be taught how to do it right. Like I said, in the 6-week mastermind, we're going to be covering meal planning a lot because I think that is just like an essential pillar. If you want to know about the PCOS mastermind, the link is in my bio. So I just think that meal planning gets a bad rap because a lot of people do it in a way that isn't actually helping you understand how to be good at making your own meals for yourself and making it consistent. So develop that skill would be my number one tip, because if you want to heal anything, if you want to reverse type 2 diabetes, reverse PCOS, if you want to, put eczema into remission, you got to start cooking more. Straight up. Or you're going to spend a fortune outsourcing it to people. If you've got a fortune, oh my God, do it. Please. And tell me what it's like. But everyone else, for us, we have to get in the kitchen. Like, if you are going to buy bone broth every single week, it is going to put you broke, or you're not going to stick to the habit. One of the two is going to happen. But if you make it yourself for literally a fraction of the cost, you'll have bone broth for the entire week. And so those are like, that's how you make it work. Like, I remember, like, every time I like endeavor to like go on like a fitness like workout plan, I'm always shocked by how much like food costs. But it's usually because I'm sort of like, maybe like buying like some prepared things to make it easier because I'm doing like a new thing. But it's like, once you start cooking, you save money and you eventually save time. Meal planning is meant to help you through a bind, to help you through lack of motivation, to help you through a lot of things. But if you don't do it right, it actually feels like work. But if you do it right, it actually buys you time back in your life. And that's what it's supposed to do. What are my thoughts on apple cider vinegar? I really love apple cider vinegar. I have a ton of videos on it. I make a lot of drinks and beverages. All of those recipes are in the Glucose Club, which is my membership community. All my recipes are there. Yeah, I drink apple cider every single day. There's actually not apple cider in here for once. This is just like water with collagen in it. And it's delicious. The thing about collagen is the collagen that you get is really important, because if you get one that does not dissolve beautifully, it'll ruin all your drinks as you're trying to make it work. But if you get a collagen that's good, you can put it in anything and you're set. Anyways, an aside. But I love apple cider vinegar. Just make sure that you drink it with a straw. Because if you're just like raw dogging it on your teeth, I mean, unless you are covered with like really exceptional dental plan, I would not do that. Good morning to you. For pre-diabetes, should I only eat fruits once my A1C and glucose is controlled or lowered? So it depends on the fruit that you eat. Things like bananas, peaches, mangoes, pineapples, all of them great, have antioxidants, etc. But those are very sweet. Things like berries are great because berries, you eat the seeds. So there is there's fiber in them. And so it balances your blood sugar because of the whole delayed gastric emptying, the whole vibe. Apples are also great. I don't really like apples. I'm not really an apple fan, but apples are great because they have a really high source of like soluble fiber, pectin. So it gets all nice and jelly and like moves through the system. So those are fruits to eat, but if you're really worried about your glucose, just eat them as a dessert. Eat them after you have like a balanced meal and you should be all right. What collagen do I recommend? I like using the Organica brand. It's in Canada. I don't know if it's elsewhere. I think they're across North America. I don't know about anywhere else. Sorry. They're really good. I really like it. I get the original, so unflavored, and I just put it in all the things. So yeah, I think that's also another thing that I think we got to be thinking about is, the brand is Organica, is we also like accepting that when you're doing something new, there's going to be, like a learning period. You have to give yourself that grace. I think if you try again on meal planning or just like any transformation that you're trying to take yourself on, reversing PCOS or type 2 diabetes, those are transformations truly that you are taking yourself on. You have to give yourself a month, 6 weeks of grace, of support, maybe 2 months even, because that is when all of the discomfort is really present, especially from just like your life has to change. So you have to know that and just be ready for it. Because if you know it's going to be hard for 5 weeks and then it gets good and it gets easy and it starts to like be like a habit, all the things, then you know that you just have to get to week 5. As opposed to trying to start, be perfect and like do it all yourself and not ask for help. And then you like burn out because you just like didn't appreciate the fact that it was just going to be hard because it's new. All new things are like kind of hard and you're kind of like shit at them. That's why getting support is great. The PCOS mastermind, join. But I think that you have to just like accept that part of it. Even for myself, like I'm a chef. I've studied nutrition. Like I, know like what I'm doing, you could say. And when I had to change my lifestyle to reverse and heal my eczema and also my resistant insulin, which was just like a pylon of things, it was hard for me even for like, I don't know, 6 weeks, 3 months, I would say even for me, because I went down a lot of rabbit holes. And it was hard but I knew it was going to be. So I just like kind of like kept my head down. But if you don't expect it and you're not real with yourself, that actually leads to more failure. Like I'm like such a positive person. Like I believe you kind of just like look at the bright side of things because it makes life just better in general. But I also think that you can't just be like delusional in that sense. You kind of have to be real to prepare yourself. Because when you're prepared, things are easier. I have zero appetite in the morning, would like to change that, but don't know how. Have something like bone broth in the morning. So, bone broth, a cup of bone broth is great. I like chicken bone broth a little more than I like, beef bone broth. That's just like a personal preference. And that's great because you can just make it and like season it like soup broth and then just drink it. And you're getting like protein and you're getting vitamins and minerals and there's like healthy fats. There's all the good things. But it doesn't feel like you're eating. It feels like you're sipping something. So that is something that I would maybe think of doing and try doing. That can be a really good start. You can also make like something like a protein coffee. So I have a video of a protein coffee. I think I posted it on Monday. I can't remember what day I posted it. That details just like how you can really add a lot of protein in the morning without necessarily feeling like you're eating. And you're also having it in your coffee. So it feels sort of like already like something that you're doing. Because you do have to start eating in order to start feeling hunger to eat, but having no appetite at all in the morning can actually be a sign of like cortisol issues. It's not a good thing. So you want to reframe that, certainly. So not force feeding, because that sounds terrible, but you gotta just be like, we're eating this. But things like bone broth and like a protein coffee is like a lot easier to take down so you don't feel nauseous, because that would suck too. Once I started eating breakfast again, my hunger response came back, and now I'm hungry in the AM. Exactly. Because your body stops being stressed. Not being hungry is a cortisol response, generally. And so, when you start eating breakfast, what happens is that cortisol response is like starting to lower, and then you get hungry. It's great. You start feeling hunger. But again, I would just start with something like bone broth. I love bone broth. Like, I'm obsessed with it. I make it every week. I have it all the time. If I don't have bone broth in the morning, my day feels off. It just does. Maybe because I know that I'm like missing out on so many nutrients that like my body just loves. But I mean, an aside. Someone said, I'm yet to understand cortisol. Explain to me like I'm 5. I mean, cortisol is a long conversation. It really is. That's something I'm going to get into inside the membership or mastermind. Membership is all my recipes. The mastermind is the PCOS specific thing that's happening starting next Saturday. But the one thing to remember about cortisol is it is brought on and spurred on by stress in the body, stress happening in the body that you are putting on your body. So if you are intermittent fasting and you feel so hungry in the morning, but you don't eat until noon, you have to stop doing that, because what's happening is a cortisol response is happening. As a result, your body's going to stress, being like, I'm hungry and I can't get food. And so now you're in a cortisol response. So you need to start eating in the morning. If you do really heavy exercise, that 100% is going to cause stress on the body. But if you already have a cortisol response going on, you want to pull back on that kind of stuff and like take it easy, because you're already stressed. Your body is already feeling the negative effects of stress if you're having like all these cortisol responses. Also balancing your blood sugar. If you're having unregulated blood sugar all the time, you are having a cortisol response every single time. So, it's something that you like. Again, cortisol is good, but having it in a negative, like if it's doing too much, then what happens is then it starts to negatively impact you. It's like estrogen. We love estrogen, but if you have too much, it's not a good thing. Progesterone, we love it, but if you have too much, it's not a good thing. Cortisol, I was like trying to make a point. Cortisol, if you have too much, we love it, but if you have too much, it's not a good thing. I'm in a place where I don't have a kitchen, just a kettle, so I buy bone broth. What brand do I recommend? Kettle and Fire seems to be very well liked by a lot of people, so that's the one that I would suggest. People seem to really like that one. And I think that you can get it in like packets so that you add it to water, or you add water to it, like the crystals or whatever you say, and it is lovely and perfect. And it's like a bone broth, you sip it. So that's a great option. If you're also not in a place where you have a kitchen, one thing you can do if you have like a fridge or refrigeration is to add like frozen vegetables. So when you add the hot water, it cooks the vegetables in this like bone broth. So you kind of have like a soup. Yum. Do the packaged gelatinized? I would have no idea because I don't use them. I make my own bone broth. So, yeah, I don't know. You would have to maybe like, what I would suggest is go to like a place like Amazon. The only reason I say go to Amazon is like, we all don't like Jeff B. We get it. But the reviews there's so many reviews. You can buy it from Kettle and Fire, but go look at the reviews on Amazon. People will give you the harsh truth. Can I give an example of a calorie deficient, nutrient dense diet? I mean, it's very detailed. So I'm not going to give you the full details, but I would say that a calorie deficient, nutrient dense diet, so meaning, like, I'll just sort of like give an overview in the sense that when you're trying to do a nutrient or a calorie deficit, you absolutely need to be eating less calories. But within that space, you need to also be getting still a lot of nutrients, sometimes even more. So you have to be really smart about how you get those nutrients in places that are adding value from a perspective of like, you're getting the protein content, you're getting all of that, but not necessarily adding calories. So one way, if you've never heard of volumetrics, that is how you kind of do a calorie deficit, but also, in a way that like you still feel like you're eating a lot of food. Volumetrics is simply eating big meals full of things that have nutrients to them, but are like, like lots of lettuce, eating like soups because it's a lot of liquid. So when you eat that soup, you get fuller quicker because you're eating like a liquid or you're drinking a liquid at the same time. But making sure that liquid is something like bone broth is what I mean by it being nutrient dense. It's like you are in a calorie deficit, but there needs to be nutrients within that fully. Again, having something like a protein coffee. So you are still having a lot of protein in the morning, but you're not necessarily having a lot of calories like you maybe would have before. So do I do one-on-one consultations? I do. I actually have a sale on right now. If you go to the link in my bio, the first option is private coaching, a one-on-one session, and you can just click and the deal is already applied, the promo code. And the promo code is only valid till, it might have changed, but it's till today at midnight. If it's not up there, I'll go change it after. But yes, I do one-on-one consultations. But you want to just make sure that all of the nutrients, everything, is still present, even though the calories are not. And it's important too now that you think about, how do I do this when with still remaining in a whole food place or a mostly whole food place? Because you might be want to go reach for a lot of these no calorie, 0 calorie foods. And while I'm like not here to say like, oh, artificial sweetener, this or that, what I am here to say is that a whole food diet is going to get you to your goal faster, I believe, than any other way. But so it just, again, it becomes about a smart strategy of how do you be in a calorie deficit while not being in a nutrient deficit? Because that's what happens when people lose weight really quickly. Sometimes their skin gets bad, their hair gets thin. It's like, yeah, now you're thin, but you don't look good. And it's because you can do a lot of things to lose weight. But you also have to think to yourself, how can I lose weight, but also gain in health? Both are possible at the same time. But you have to be really like mindful. So again, I talk about that in one-on-one clients all the time, but in the PCOS mastermind, we are going to be talking about calorie deficits just because I'm in one right now. But it's 100% nutrient rich. I'm very mindful of that because it's like, one thing I'm not about to do is try and lose a little bit of weight in a way that is like punishing to my body. No way, never. So we're talking about that in the mastermind. Lose weight and gain health. I love that. It's true because I think that when we think about just losing weight, we forget that we can do bad things to lose weight and hurt ourselves and make it harder for us to lose weight in the future, which is even more just messed up in my opinion. So you have to be thinking multidimensionally about losing weight or just like, again, being in a calorie deficit. Like you can see a lot of people in calorie deficits and of course they lose weight because you eat less calories, you lose weight, but you want to make sure that you are still maintaining good immunity, good gut health, that if you are trying to lose weight and maybe like have a baby soon, that you aren't damaging your hormones and your fertility and all of these things at the behest of just trying to lose weight. Because I think that's just like not forward thinking. That's backwards. That's the wrong way to think about it. Weight loss is often a byproduct of things, but certainly a calorie deficit. If you want to drop weight, you have to be in one. But if you're not trying to lose weight, you don't have to be in one. You can be in whatever you want. But if you are trying to lose a bit of weight, you do have to be in a calorie deficit, but how you do it very much matters. So that was a long answer to a short question. I know, just because I kept it in my head, someone said my thoughts on the keto diet. My thoughts on the keto diet are exactly how I feel about calorie deficits. It needs to be nutrient dense. There are a lot of ways to do keto that are not good for you. Again, deli meats, just eating cheese, just like doing things that are like, yeah, that's protein and that's fat, but it's not necessarily like giving you everything, giving you the things you need. And so I think I don't mind keto, but again, are there vegetables in the mix? And they can be low carb vegetables, of course. If you are eating a lot of dairy, what's the quality of that dairy? What kind of fats are you eating? What are the fat sources? Like, is it a lot of processed foods that just say keto on them? Or is it like from a whole food perspective? There's a lot of things that you have to consider of any diet. The only diet that I think is just like naturally baked in unprocessedness is the paleo diet, because that is like just a focus on whole foods, unprocessed. So I'd say that one. Someone said, thank you, Bianca. We'll set a meeting with you soon. Blessed day. Well, I can't wait. See ya. If you're leaving, and blessed day to you if you're just staying and you just said that. My A1C is almost back to normal range. How do you know when it's time to stop meds? I would talk to your doctor about that just because everyone is different. That's so very different. But if your numbers are like, so I would say get your numbers in normal range and keep them there for a little bit before you go talking about off meds, only because you will get pushback for sure. And so when you go and say, like, I'd like to get off my meds, you want to be able to say, I've kept my numbers in normal range for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. Like, you want to go in there with a little bit of ammo and like, so get it in range and keep it in range. And like for, 6 weeks and beyond. And then I think you have some pretty good, like a pretty good idea that it's time to go off meds if you want. But again, that's very personal. So before you do that, go to your doctor. But again, I feel like if you get it into normal range with like your lifestyle and the things that you're doing, and you go to your doctor and you say, I got my numbers into normal range and they've been there for the last 2 months, feel like that's pretty solid evidence that you might be ready for like the next phase. So, you're welcome. All right, I'm going to do the call for last questions. If you have any questions, please get them in. And if you're new here, I do a live every Monday to Friday, but next week it's going to be in the afternoon. So just keep that in mind. Oh, someone says, I'm pre-diabetic. My doctor refused to put me on meds. She told me diet and exercise. I actually gotta like your doctor. Diet and exercise is going to do it, babes. I don't know if she gave you any guidance. I think that's where the system falls a little bit short. In that they say like, hey, you need to work on your diet and your exercise. And they're like, go do it. They don't really give you any support beyond that. So I definitely encourage you to get the blood sugar workshop or join the glucose glow up, because in that I will show you exactly from like a diet perspective, exactly what to do in order to reverse your prediabetes. I take Ceylon, cinnamon, and berberine, which are great, but you gotta do more. There's more you got to do. Like just taking those 2 things and doing nothing else is not going to do it. You really do have to change your lifestyle, or upgrade to type 2 diabetes, and then she'll absolutely put you on meds. So I think those are the options. But cinnamon and berberine, while great, they are not the cure all. You need to pair it with some pretty solid lifestyle stuff. So the blood sugar workshop will teach you. And then the glucose glow up has all the recipes, like all my recipes. So that. I actually just put up the April recipes and they're delish. So if there aren't any more questions, again, I encourage you, if you have PCOS, check out the mastermind. It starts next Saturday. And it's 6 weeks. And we're talking about everything from a calorie deficit, but not a nutrient deficit because that's bad for you. We're going to talk about meal planning, you know, putting the plan in place so that you can have like a sustainable life, and then also like gut and liver stuff. It's going to be great. And I'll see you on Monday afternoon. So I'll put up something on my story every morning, like what time I'm going to be doing the live. So on Monday morning, I'll tell you what time it's going to be. Okay. So you just said, I'm a water aerobic Zumba instructor and I eat clean. It's sometimes not about what you eat, but how you eat it. And there's other factors that are involved. I want to try your program. You should definitely join. I have lots of offers. Just click the link in my bio and you'll see everything. And you can go through it all. And you're welcome for all my help and advice. It's my pleasure to do it. So see everyone on Monday afternoon. Have a wonderful weekend. We made it. It's time to celebrate.